Ooh, that looks tasty.
In the late 1840s, thousands of pioneers headed west to seek wealth and opportunity. Many of these brave souls traveled by wagon over the Sierra Nevada mountain range into what would soon become the Golden State of California. In Sierra West, you are an expedition leader who must guide a party of rough and ready pioneers, employing a clever mix of strategy and tactics with each step.
Welcome, folks. Today, the Hungry Gamer is back with another game review. And today, we are talking about Sierra West. Published by Board and Dice and designed by Johnny Pack, with solo mode developed by Johnny Pack and David Turtsey, which I may be saying wrong, but I hope I said that correctly. And before I get started, first off, please make sure you have the Klingon subtitles turned on. If I make any mistakes, that is where you will find the corrections. And a big thank you to Manic Mark for today's voiceover introduction. Sierra West is a game about settling the West. And in the game, there are 4 different modules that you can play. What I have set up in front of me is the Apple Hill module. There's also a Bandits and Outlaws, a Boats and Banjos, and a Gold Rush version. They all change the game subtly, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on. And what you are doing is you are doing your best to gain resources and advance yourself up these scoring tracks and advance your wagons across the field there. And to do that, you are drawing cards and playing cards in various unique ways to advance your frontiersmen all over the place. Now, I'll also say I have this game set up right now in the solo mode, which is why, for those of you who know the game, that is why there are 2 meeples out there right now. Now, if you are not interested in how this game is played, and you only want my final thoughts, you're going to want to jump ahead to the timestamp on the screen right now. And for those of us who are still here, let's talk about how this game is played. So the first thing that you do is you select your module. As I said, I picked Apple Hill, which means I added this, and I added this board. These are specific to those modules. Then you collect the module's cards, and then you build this mountain here. And let me show you, the top is a little bit cut off right now. Let me show you what that looks like. And so you can see how that works. And then you turn the top 2 cards face up so you can see what is on them. And so what you're going to be doing to advance up these tracks is you're going to be playing cards out of your hand. And each turn you will draw 3 cards. And on these cards, there are a bunch of various actions that you can take. And just briefly, I'll talk about what some of these are. So the feet here, that's movement. So you can either move your wagon forward if you pay the resources there, or you can move up the mountain, 1 card at a time. So if I used 1, I can move to there. If I use 2, I can move up to there. Then there are the resources. Very simple. You land on that, you get that resource. Might be 2, might be 1. There are shovels, which let you either build cabins up here, or if you have your frontiersman on one of the cards that is face up, you can claim that card and either put it into on top of your deck or into your discard pile. Then there are the module-specific cards, like this one here. And what this one allows you to do is it gives you the same types of things you can do usually, but it also adds a specific module resource. For this one, this card would let me add apples to the apple crate here. So if I were to use that, then both these apples would go up by 2. And I'll talk about those apples in just a minute as I go through and I talk about how you earn points in this game. And there are 3 different basic resources. You have meat, you have wood, and you have stone. There's also various ways that you can gain gold as well. But those are your basic resources. And as I said, in this module, you also have apples. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to decide how I want to use these cards. And I have to make a decision because I know you're looking at this and saying, well, you get to do all those actions? How does this work? So what I'm going to do is, just for kicks, I'm going to use this one first, and you'll see the way that I place that is I slide it down, and it stops right there. There's a little notch on the bottom of my board there. Then I take my other cards and I decide which ones I want to deal with first, so I'm just going to put them in this order for sake of argument. And so now what you see is now that I've placed them in, I've built my own little mountain here, and I have two paths I can follow. I can follow this tan path, the dirt road, and I can follow this green or grass path. And then down here, I have two meeples, and you'll see they are shaped differently. One has a hat, one does not. The hat meeple will always travel along the green path, while the non-hat meeple will always travel along the dirt path. And so what I can do is I am able to send them on these paths however I would like. The first thing you do is you decide is one of your meeples going to go into one of these cabins down below? Remember how I said that the shovel allows you to build things? Well, once you have built some of those cabins, you have them out here and they are able to affect your actions. So for example, let's just say that in a previous turn, I had built this particular cabin. So what I would do is I would put it down here, and I could start with this meeple here, it shows you right there, in this cabin, just hanging out doing his or her thing. Then while the other meeple travels the path, any time that I came up on a single stone, I would actually get 2 stone resources instead of just the 1. It only works while the meeple's in the cabin, so if it's left the cabin, it no longer works. So even though you can have 3 green and 1 brown cabin, the brown cabin is where the hat guy goes, you can still only have 1 active at any given moment because you have to have a meeple in it to do it. I will also say, with the exception of special things provided by cabins, you can never go backwards on this track. But for now, let's say that this is where I am. I don't have any single stones out there, so there's no point in using that cabin. And I should also have filled this because this would have been filled from earlier. And so I'm simply going to start traveling. And I'll take my dirt path meeple and I'll start here. I land there and I get 2 stone. I move on and I'm going to pause there for a moment. And I'm going to go ahead and take my 1. I'm going to send my frontiersman up 1 space. Oops, I need to put him actually in a spot. And I'll send this meeple on a little bit more. And I'll get myself a chicken leg. And I'll go here, and then I will send up both of these resources by 2, the green apples and the red apples. I will go here, and I'll send up my frontiersman another space. Then I'll go here, and I will pick up another chicken leg, and I'll continue with this one here. And I will stop there, and I'm going to build a cabin. And to do that, I'm going to go ahead and spend 1 of my chicken legs. I have to spend a chicken leg because it has 1 resource down here. To do this action, you must spend 1 resource. Then to do this action over here, you must spend 2 resources. And I'm simply going to buy this cabin right here. To buy this cabin, it only costs you a shovel, which I gained from doing that. If I wanted this one, I would also have to add a resource. Also add 1 resource for this. And for this one, I would have to add 1 of these double boot resources, which are a little harder to get. But I've now claimed another cabin. I move to here, and I'll claim 2 wood. And I'm going to come here. I'm not going to build anything else, and I'll move to the end right here. Now, you're not quite done yet, because you see that there's these different symbols on the top of your little miniature mountain. Each one of your meeples gets to pick 1 of those 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send my hat guy over here and spend 2 stone and 1 chicken leg, and I'm going to advance up this gray track by 1, and I'm now closer to scoring. Now, on the bottom of these tracks, you'll see that there are 3 symbols: stone, wood, and food. The other player right now would have the opportunity to take 1 of their meeples and put it in this spot right here. They can put either meeple they want, And so whenever the other player moves up one of those tracks, they can put it there and claim that resource. Now what that does, though, is it means that that meeple cannot go to a cabin. This counts as their cabin to begin the turn. You might also be asking, what are these animals here for? So this is the other thing that the other players get to do on your turn. They have the opportunity to trap a beaver or a fox. And all they have to do is they take a meeple and they put it right here, which also counts as their cabin for next turn. They pay one resource, and they get to flip over their trap. And they have now trapped whatever animal that is. And you'll see that there's a resource associated with each one because there is a trapping action that you can get, which then allows you to get all of the resources from all the animals that you have already trapped. Then to finish off my turn, I will go ahead and go up to here, and I can spend 3 apples to get 1 gold. Now, the apples are a community resource. Whatever is there, and anyone can spend them. So I'm going to spend 1, 2, 3, and claim a gold for myself. Now, I finished my turn. I have 2 wood and 1 gold. This other remaining apple, it stays there. So when someone else goes, they might build it up or they might spend it however they choose to do that. So the other things that I've talked about that you need to know how to do. And again, I'm going through this fairly quickly. As I've said, you can move your wagon forward. And what this does is this increases your score multiplier at the end of the game. Each one of these tracks is worth 0 through 5 points. Depending on how far across your wagon is, it gets multiplied by that many. So let's just say that I wanted to move my wagon to here. I would have to spend 1 boot, so as I collect it here, and then spend a resource as well. And this symbol just means 1 generic resource. So I could spend a wood, and now I've moved myself there. Now the other thing that I've already started to talk about is this idea of climbing the mountain. And this is actually how you're going to end the game. And I'm going to show you how that works. So let's just say, for sake of argument, that my frontiersman was all the way up there at the top. Well, when I got to this shovel, I could have spent 1 resource and claimed the card that I happen to be on. And that would bring me all the way back down here, and I would now have this card. And I could put this on top of my deck or in my discard pile. And this one would do the same thing here, where it would just give me 3 red apples as I go through. And so I will put that down. Then I would flip over the next card that has been exposed. And because it has this symbol right here on the bottom, it goes down into this space right down here. And you can see I've kind of compressed things to get it all in the shot, but it would go here, and eventually you filled them up all the way over to here. As soon as you fill them up all the way to here, that triggers the end of the game. You finish the round you're on, everyone gets 1 more turn, and then the game is over. You move to scoring. And I also would have revealed this one here. Now, there are a few other things that I just need to explain very quickly. And that is, there are a few other actions that do exist that you might run into while you are playing. And I'm not going to go into great depth with them, but I will show you kind of how they work. Now, the next thing that I want to point out is this card here. This card has a couple actions that we haven't seen yet. This one is the mule. And if you play it, you simply claim the mule, and it goes into your little settlement here. And the mule starts its turn. It goes to this cabin here. And what it allows you to do, there, let's slide that up more, goes this cabin down here. It allows you to turn gold into any other resource you want. 1 for 1. 1 gold can be a wood, a stone, or a chicken leg. As long as it's in there, you can do as much as you want. Then at the end of the turn, if you remember, you had 3 cards out here with 3 different options to places you can go, but you only have 2 meeples. Well, the mule would let you go there and do the 3rd one as well. There is only 1 mule in the game, so you hold on to it until the other player, or one of the other players, plays the mule, and then they take it from you. Then there are other specific actions that relate specifically to the module, and here is one of them. This one, you always have to pay to do it, And what it will do is it lets you harvest apples. And then you look at the cards that are out, and that's how many apples get harvested. So in this case, 2 green get harvested. Oops, this is supposed to be turned over the other way. And 2 red apples get harvested. And that simply would mean 1, 2, 1, 2. And that's fairly simple. And again, each module will have something like that. So you play around until you've depleted the mountain and all of these cards have been placed out. Then you go through, you do your scoring, and for scoring, you simply look at the tracks here, you see what your total is, you multiply it by wherever your wagon is, and then on top of that, you add 1 point for every gold that you happen to have. Nothing else is worth any money whatsoever. You look at all of your traps. For every animal you have not trapped, you lose 3 points. And for every cabin space that you have not built, you lose 3 points. Then you simply check to see if there's any additional scoring for the modules that you are on. And you do that. Whoever has the most points wins. Very simple. And so the only other thing that I wanted to explain briefly is how the solo mode works. So when you're playing solo mode, you play just like I showed you, and you're earning as many points as you can. And every round, the AI, known as Hastings, gets to take his turn. There's a few things that are different. One, there is no player board. It's only these cards. And you put the wagon out, which you saw earlier, and then you have 2 meeples out that can climb the mountain. And so what you're going to do is, as you'll see, I have 1 card out, and on Hastings' turn, I will flip over. And so the first thing that I need to point out is right here, there is this rabbit. This means that I have the opportunity to trap a rabbit. And that's how I do my trapping. Over here, you'll see that there are these 3 the symbol here that looks like my little card mountain that I make. Well, in this case, nothing happens because it's not highlighted. But if it was a highlighted card, this one right here, then Hastings would trap whatever the leftmost animal visible on my card happens to be. And if he's already trapped it, then nothing happens. Otherwise, he will flip it over, and that is what he catches. Nice and simple. Then I go down and I look at these arrows here. And this is going to tell me what 3 things Hastings is going to do. First, Hastings will build. And I look here and I see it has the meeple on the right. And so that means that wherever the frontiersman meeple is, if he is up on the mountain, then he will build and he will take that card off the mountain, which progresses the game, and those cards are worth points at the end of the game. And if he's not all the way up on one of the revealed cards, then he would build the rightmost cabin on the board, and he would simply take it and put it next to him, and it's worth points at the end of the game for him. It's also possible that it could be the leftmost, in which case it would either build the leftmost cabin on the track, or it would build the face-up card farthest to the left that the other meeple happened to be standing on. Then right here, this would have the meeple move to the closest revealed card on the mountain. And again, it would be the rightmost meeple, the one with the hat. He always goes to the right. But that is not highlighted, so that would not happen. Then right here, Hastings would advance up that specific track on the scoring, and then I would have the opportunity to place my meeple in that space to where I could gain the resource because he did that, and then he would build again. At the end of his turn, the rightmost card gets discarded, this one slides over, and you just kind of set out another one ready to be played. And it is just that simple. Then the next turn, I would simply take it and flip it over, and this time, there's nothing for me to trap. He's going to catch whatever the rightmost animal I have revealed is, and then he would move forward. His wagon would move forward 1. He would move up the beige track, and then his meeple would move. And it actually plays just that quickly, so you have an idea of kind of what is going on. You have a little bit of advance notice of what Hastings might be doing, and that's just how that works. Very quick, simple, done with cards. So what do I like about this game? First of all, I really do like the basic card play. And it's not that card play is so particularly exciting and unique to me, but it's the use of this. This is what is exciting and unique. The way that you're sitting there and you're building these paths. You have two paths going, and there are a bunch of different options, but you have to be able to look ahead. You have to kind of plan out what it is that you're going to do, what you want to do, and there are just so many choices that you can make. I mean, just right here, I have all these different options of what I can do. Do I want to claim the mule if I play this one in the middle? Or do I want to send up the green apples? Do I want to send up the red apples? Well, that's one thing, but at the same time, if I use whatever middle one I use, that means I don't get to use these others on the side. So I have to look and really figure out what it is that I want to do. So in this case, maybe I really want to get the mule, because I don't have it right now, and I want to do this. So now I have a whole bunch of movement that I'm gaining. I'm going to harvest a whole bunch of apples. I'm going to make a ton of apples this turn, which seems like, well, everyone can use those. But then you look here at the end, I've claimed the mule, and now I can use 3 of those green apples to go up the green apple track. At the same time, I'm going to take my excess green apples, I'm going to turn them into wood, I'm going to take all of my red apples, I'm going to turn them into stone. And you get the idea. I mean, there's just so many things going on, and that just has the 3 cards that I happen to grab right now. I think this is a lot of fun. I love planning this out. I love how you're playing, and you're sending your meeples along these tracks, and you got to make sure you send one just far enough, because maybe you need to gather resources so you can build something, or you're sending it far enough so you can make use of your cabins down here, or who knows? There's so many different things that you can do, but at the same time, it's not hard. It is not a hard thing to do once you figure it out. I also really enjoy the mountain, which I have destroyed here on my table, but I think the mountain is so much fun because you see what is up there. You have to send your guy up the mountain, and at the same time you have to decide, do I want to do that to try to get those cards that I want, or do I want to send my wagon forward? Because if I don't get my wagon over here by the end of the game, I'm going to be in a hole, because I guarantee you at least one of the other players is going to be over here, and if you're playing against Hastings, he's probably all the way over there. And so I really like those choices. The choices are real. There's not so many choices that it's overwhelming, but all of them are meaningful. The next thing that I really like is you are not resource starved. There are very few turns that you can't do anything. It does happen every once in a while, but for the most part, you have the resources that you need. You don't feel like you are struggling to get anything all the time. So in a nutshell, the overall way this game plays, I really do enjoy. I also have to say that I really like the solo play. I think the solo play is just fantastic. I love the way these cards work. I love the way they work because you kind of have an idea of what might be happening, but you don't know exactly, and it's not hard. Again, it's just so easy to see what Hastings is doing. It only takes a minute, maybe, to do Hastings' turn, then you're back to doing your own. It's just that simple, and it's hard. I have yet to beat Hastings. I have lost to Hastings every single time by under 4 points, which is devastating to me, but it makes me want to go back and keep playing. And so, love that. I love that, love that, love that. I also think that the components overall are quite good. I think everything is sturdy, has a good feel to it. I love these resources. These resource tokens are just fantastic. They could just be little bits of cardboard, but these are just so nice. I love these. And everything else about the components is quite good. The insert is really good. It's easy to fit everything in there. My specific copy is slightly warped. As you can see, I need to put something heavy on it. I don't think that's indicative of board and dice. I think I just happened to get one of those that probably had some odd temperature changes or something as it came to me. And I'm sure if I put some heavy stuff on it, that will flatten itself out. And I also love these 4 different modules. Now, I say the 4, I have not played the bandits and the gold rush enough to really pass judgment on them, but I love the way it changed the game. It changes the game enough so it is different. The strategies are different, but it's not a new game. It's not a completely different game. And many times I love games that do that, but in this one I love that it changes the experience, changes the strategy, but doesn't make you learn a whole bunch of new rules. Really, really like that. And I will also say it probably means that expansions are going to be fairly affordable and fairly easy to make. I say easy, I'm sure it's not easy, but it just means that new cards, maybe some new tokens, a new animal to trap, because each module has its own special animal, and that's really probably all that you need. So I really think there's a lot of potential for this game to keep growing, which I really do enjoy. I do enjoy this game quite a bit. Let me talk about my few quibbles with the game. And the first one is probably my biggest one, and that is, even though this game does play up to 4 players, I do not think it is a wonderful game at 3 and 4 players. I think it's a solid game. I think it's an interesting game at 3 and 4 players, but I think it is a very fun game at solo and at 2 players, because there is just enough that you are able to do on the other player's turn with the, do you want to trap something, or if they go up one of these tracks over here, do you want to try to claim something? Just enough for you to think about. So by the time they finish their turn, unless it's taking forever, you haven't just sat there and done nothing. But when you have 3 and 4 players, there's definitely a decent amount of downtime where you're just sitting and waiting for it to come back to you. And I think that's a little bit of a downer. Is it bad playing 3 players and 4 players? No, it's still fun. It's just a far better game, solo or 2-player. And then my other quibble is really almost the quibbliest of quibbles, is I want to talk about these cabins. I love the idea of these cabins, and oh my gosh, what a mess I have out here. I think the idea behind them is fascinating. It's something else that you do with your meeples. It adds a little bit of a layer of strategy as you decide who are you going to leave behind to send up to actually make use of them, which I think is a good thing. But I'm not sure that the benefits of these different cabins here is really worth the time that you have to put in to figuring it out. Because I have played with people who, once they've gotten their cabins, because you got to build the cabins. If you don't build the cabins, you're going to lose a significant amount of points, and that will probably lose you the game. So you got to build them. And if you build them, you want to use them. But a lot of times, the benefit for using them is just not that big. So you get 2 chickens instead of just 1, or 2 stone. Some are a little more powerful, but they're harder to use. And I just don't know the amount of time that once you have all your cabins built, that you spend looking at those cabins pays off in the end, because I think it's probably worth up to 10 points that you'll wind up getting because of these cabins. And it's definitely kind of a speed bump on the game as you're going through. Someone's turn comes up, they put their cards out, they look at it, okay, I'm going to do this, and oh, stop, look at the cabins. Okay, now I'm going to move on. And to be fair, about half of the people I've played with really like the cabins, and the other people I played with wish the cabins weren't there. And all of these people want to play the game again. So I think, to me, the cabins are a little bit of a miss just in the payoff that you get from them. I hope that makes sense. I don't think they're bad at all. I just think they're not quite as useful and fun as they can be. And sometimes they slow the game down more than they really should. And then my other complaint is, and probably my only real complaint, is the rule book itself. I just really struggled to figure out the basics of the game from the rule book on its own. And I will say, I went and I watched a Meeple University video, and it just straightened me right up. And as soon as I had done that, I understood how to play, and it was very easy. And I will say that the rulebook does do a good job of explaining the solo play, how that works, and does also do a good job of explaining the differences on each of the modules and just how those work. So it's really just the basics that I really had a hard time with. And that's it. Those are my only quibbles. And I have to say that if you like Euro games, especially if you like playing Euro games solo or just with one other person, then this is pretty much a can't miss game. I think if you are looking for a 3 and 4 player experience, then the question becomes, what do you think about this mechanic with this board? What do you think about setting this up and going along the path and climbing up? If you think that sounds fun, then it's worth checking this game out, because it is still a fun game with multiple players if you're into what you're doing. And I certainly think if you like Euro games and you like solo play, then this is almost a must-buy game. I really do think it is quite fun to play solo. As I'm looking at this mess I've made, I think as soon as I'm done with this review, I'm going to set this back up and play solo myself. And so I'm just going to finish this off by saying that in general, I'm not really historically a big Euro game guy. And I don't know why that is. I think part of me just really likes rolling dice and seeing what happens. And when I first heard about this, I wasn't overly excited by the theme, but I do know Johnny a little bit, and he told me about it, and I thought, oh, well, that sounds cool. This sounds neat, the way that works. So yeah, I want to check it out. I want to try it. And man, am I glad I did. I don't know that I'm going to go so far as to say that I am a Euro game guy now, but I'm definitely getting closer. I definitely want to check out some more of these games. So there you have it, folks. If I made any mistakes, please let me know in the comments with a timestamp so I can get them in the Klingon subtitles. As always, if you found this video at all useful, please like, subscribe, share. You know how it works. And finally, thank you so very much for watching. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.